another special program for you coming up in a moment. We're going to let in folks on the Zoom call, live audience, and we'll get started momentarily. Hello, hello. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. I'm Ethan Janey. We are about to get started with Piano Tech Radio Hour momentarily, and we'll just let people get settled. If you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, welcome. You're welcome to join us on Zoom. If you see the link on Facebook or YouTube to join us, feel free to click that and jump in and be a little bit closer to the action. I'm Ethan Janey. We're doing Piano Tech Radio Hour. I will be introducing the program momentarily. We're just kind of letting people get settled. And I'm about to pop the Zoom link into the chat, so you can join us here if you like. Give me a moment to grab that. Let's intro the program so you know what you're in for today. Sorry, I think my microphone might have been a little bit muted for a moment. This is Piano Tech Radio Hour, and we are brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. Of course, this is an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more on pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And of course, you can also subscribe to Piano Tech Radio for just $16 a month, get direct access to each private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of over 200 episodes in our member area. And you can join using the link bit.ly/joinptrh. And of course, as we're here every week, we are gathering to learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. Could be manufacturers of pianos or other instruments, rebuilders, musicians that are piano players or other instruments. And of course, piano techs are always a part of our loyal audience. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour, brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. It's an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. Find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. As I said, don't forget about the podcast, where we've been top 100, top 10, number 1 in various locales across the globe in the performing arts category on iTunes. We've got a Substack, which is information you just can't access anywhere else about the finest intricacies of piano technology, from piano history to design and construction to voicing, regulation, concert prep. Again, stuff you're just not going to find anyplace else. And in a great video format, you can watch over and over again and refine your skills and be the top of the craft. Of course, we have our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you want to sign up for the email list to keep abreast of everything going on, that's pretty simple. Just go to pianotechniciansmasterclass.com, enter your name and email, and you can get started and keep up to date on what's going on. Okay, so for today, I want to share a very interesting development that I've been working on, and we'll see how long I take to kind of demonstrate it. But I think it's got some really interesting potential. I don't think there's anything else out there like this. Want to get your input and your feedback, even if you're not on the live call today. Feel free to email Ethan at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. That's EATHAN. And yeah, give me your feedback. Let me know if you're interested in sort of testing this out. That's a little hint as to what it is. So, what do I want to share today? I am in the process of creating a new application, which you can use on your phone. You can also use just on the web as well. And what it allows you to do is actually learn to tune pianos without a piano. One of the things that is missing in our industry today is the ability to tune by ear. So we've got some great electronic tuning devices, as they see ETDs, and they're doing wonders, to raise the standard of quality in general of the industry. It means that there's a lot of folks that never could have gotten into the business as a piano technician that are getting into it and doing, again, a standard job with their tunings. The one thing that I've seen that's not so great about the usage of ETDs is you can kind of do good enough and you can kind of build a career without actually learning the intricacies of what it means to tune a piano by ear. And so what that means is people rely on the ETD to get a nice tuning. Now, what I've found is the issue with that, and you'll probably won't even realize that if you're an ETD user and nobody tells you about it. But what happens is if you're tuning a piano visually, then you're basing your standard of what in tune means off of a visual reference. Well, and of course, we all know piano is not a visual device, it's an musical instrument. So ultimately, what matters most is how it sounds, right? Not how it looks from the perspective of some sort of a sensor. Now, truth be told, there maybe sensors could be developed in a more nuanced capacity to support the type of tuning that I'm going to describe that I think is not done by ETD users, but I don't think it's there yet. And so let me explain to you, for example, me, and I'm curious for other folks who are ear tuners as well as ETD users, how you approach the process. When I'm tuning a piano using a device, oftentimes I am kind of going through the process of tuning it by ear as well, or at least in part, or to do a final check. So for example, what I might do is use my ETD to do a couple of passes. I do often use the Cybertuner as probably the leading software that's used out there, but there's also similar softwares. I've actually started using Piano Meter, interestingly enough, and can say I'm pretty impressed with it. Again, especially if you're also an ear tuner, because ultimately the devices are good for giving you a nice abstract reference, but you're going to use your ear anyways. So having a expensive software that kind of does everything for you can sometimes be a bit of a hindrance because, again, your ear is not developing and you're not using your ear to the tuning. So anyways, I might use Cybertuner, I might use Piano Meter, and of course there's Verituner out there and probably some other resources as well. And on the final pass, though, I'm actually going to go through and traditionally do basically an ear piano tuning after everything's pretty close. It makes the ear tuning easier. If I get kind of stuck on anything or get confused, hey, listen, I can use the app as a reference, get through it quickly, right? Because time is an issue. And so what does that entail? That entails, okay, let's check A440. Now, A440 is a great place to stop and say, what can we do to improve the process over an ear ETD tuner when we're checking A440? Well, you do have three strings of that note, right? And if you've been tuning for a long time, you probably and you pay attention, especially if you tune by ear, you probably notice that even if you tune three strings to an ETD and they get the spinner to stop or whatever indicator is telling you things are in tune, once you play all three strings, say it's a trichord unison together, you might notice, it's actually behaving a little bit differently. Oftentimes I'll find it's actually a little bit flatter than what each of the individual strings are. And that could be for various reasons. I feel like I've even heard from a physics perspective, the fact that there's three strings resonating at the same time may actually lower the perceived pitch that comes out of it. But ultimately, there's also other reasons this could happen. You could tune one string of three unisons, and it's showing as in tune. And then ultimately, as you tune the other two to the initial string or independently, everything can start to fall flat a little bit. And so when I'm tuning, as I tune each note of the temperament, say starting with A440, not only do I want the indicator of being in tune and on pitch to be correct when I have each of the strings independently, I want that indicator to be correct with all strings together. And I want to hear it. Of course, this is the final step. I want to listen to it and say, I like the sound of that. And if for whatever reason, me, being a musician, being a tuner that's been doing it for decades, if I don't like the sound of it, I'm going to trust my ear and I'm going to change a little bit. So, and I'm just kind of giving some foundation for this application I'm going to show you guys, explain sort of why I think it's useful and necessary in the industry and could be a very interesting tool. So stand by for the details of what this is. I think the foundation behind it's very interesting. And if anybody on the call has some input or feedback, feel free to put it in the chat or speak up. We can talk about it. So after, say, tuning A440, and I like the way it sounds, all three strings together. I like the way it aligns with an ETD. I like the way it's there. Now we're moving to we're going to tune the octave. The tool I'm going to show you today is taking you through the process of, say, tuning a temperament, okay? And it's helping you learn the process by ear. So another clue as to what it's going to look like. So as I'm tuning that octave, what I want to, again, make sure is I've got the three strings of the initial unison tuned. A lot of tuners will just pick one of those strings and tune their octave to just one string and say, hey, that's good enough. And now let me just tune the other strings to that second string, and this is all good enough. This is how it is. Or tune that second string to the ETD and then tune the other two strings to the original string. What I want to get is now I want my octave. I want to tune the initial string. I want to like the sound of the octave, whether it spins on the device or it's aligned on my ETD. This becomes secondary to how it sounds to me. And then not only do I want it to sound good as one string, as I bring in the other two strings of the unison, I still want it to sound good. And again, if you're just using an ETD, you could make the mistake of saying all these strings independently indicate as in tune, and so they must sound in tune together, and they must sound in tune with that octave, but it actually just may not be the case if you take a moment to listen. And often you can do quite a bit better, and when I say quite a bit better, that's kind of taking things from that 98% to 100%, right? Which really makes a difference in those, high level situations. So I'm tuning the two other notes of that unison, and now I'm listening to the octave, I'm listening to unison, I'm making sure the original pitch that I tuned, A440, is all in tune with all string notes, all three strings. And if I like the sound, then I can move on. And if I don't like the sound, I need to go tweak things and adjust them. So for example, if I'm on the A220, right, the A3 note, if for some reason it fell a little bit flatter than I want, I might do a special adjustment where the first string of a unison I tune, maybe actually leave it a little bit sharp according to what the ETD says, knowing that it's going to fall a tiny bit flat when that second and third string is going to come in. And then that's what matters, right? It matters when you have all three strings together. And by the way, ETD in their current state, and this is why I'm saying there's no tool there, ETD doesn't do a good job of telling you this. It doesn't do a good job of telling you all the three strings together are resonating in a way that's orally pleasing. And the other issue I want to raise right here about why tuning by ear adds that extra, right? That's what Piano Technicians Master Classes is all about. We're the level of folks that go the extra mile. We're the ones doing the concert level work. We're the ones that care most deeply and pay most attention to the details. The other issue that happens is when you're using a device, it gives you a target. and you can be a little bit flat of that target, or you could be a little bit sharp of that target if you're off. There's a range in which you can look correct on the device. Well, if you're only using visuals, well, then as you go, say like up half steps in a temperament, one of those, they all could be as close as each other to the correct pitch, but one might be a little bit flat and the next one might be a little bit sharp. Again, we're talking minuscule flatnesses and sharpnesses. But what's the issue here? The minuscule flatnesses and sharpnesses are not due to the variability of what you're hearing. They're due to the variability of what you see. And therefore, what tends to happen is you're going to compound the error that comes from not listening, right? By just using the visual device, you're going to compound little bits of error. And of course, it's going to sound okay. I'm not saying you're not going to have an okay tuning and the client's going to feel okay about it. And you can, again, be a standard tuner out there, can make good money. You might even make more money because you're a good business person, somebody who's great at it. But we're just talking about quality of tuning. If you're not using your ear to make those final judgments, then you're using your visuals. And of course, again, it's sound. We want to use our ear. Okay, let's take a look. I guess it's time for me to do a little bit of a final reveal on the visuals of what I have developed so far. And by the way, this is totally in process, folks. If you have input, feedback, there's even more plans for development and changes on what's going on here. But I'm going to show you kind of my current instance of what's going on in the interest of sharing and starting to put it out there. So let me do a screen share to. Okay, we'll take this and we're going to share our sound. And bear with me if there's some glitches here, because again, this is in development. Okay, so what you're seeing here is an interface that allows you to learn how to tune a temperament. And actually, it brings you through a very specific temperament sequence. I'm going to make sure, let me see if yeah, okay, it works. The audio is going to work here. It actually takes you through a very specific temperament sequence. And so again, there's going to be more developments of this process. But what we have here now is something that's functional, you can learn from. And again, you can learn basically to tune a piano temperament without a piano. And you can refine your ear in some ways even better than you can sitting in at a piano and trying to do it with a tuning hammer, is because you can focus on the sound, how things are supposed to sound, and getting quick at listening to it and doing the sequence quickly and understanding how an oral temperament works. So what's the foundation of this? I'm going to share a little bit of background. And again, if anybody wants access to this, this is only for people that request access, and I give permission. So if you want to check this out, great. But you do have to contact me. I'm not going to give the link for it right now, unless you've contacted me and it's approved for sort of what I would call beta testing. So first of all, let's view what I'm going to call the reference diagram for this particular tuning, which when you're using the app, you can take a look at it. This may be familiar to some folks, maybe not to others. This is a diagram from Mario Egrek's Piano Inside Out. And it's a specific temperament sequence I almost think that he created. If I remember correctly, it's one that's relatively exclusive to this book. You don't see it in other places, or you might not have seen it before this book was published. And there's a whole foundation of how the piano is tuned. I've shown this diagram to even experienced tuners, and they can take a look at it and go like, oh, this is very confusing. But once you just kind of get past the different terminologies and symbols, it's actually not as complicated as it might seem. It just requires a little bit of review, a little bit of explanation. But let me just kind of show you the general principles for those of you that may kind of just get it. So first of all, this part of the diagram is the one we'll focus on today. I've focused on other parts when showing other people. You can kind of ignore the other parts for now, and we're going to focus on sort of this grid with the little circles showing the different pitches, and these are the pitches of a temperament. This is an A3 to A4 temperament, and there's 2 pages. And there's a number of steps, and the step numbers are listed on the left here. So we have steps 1 to 28 listed on the first page. And then on the second page, we have steps 29 through 35, and that's all there is to it. There's 35 steps. And of course, even within this temperament, as with any temperament, there's really only 12 steps, meaning there's 12 notes that you ultimately are going to tune in this process. And so let me just walk you through it really quickly without explaining. Yeah, I guess I'll explain briefly this symbolism. There's a dark arrow that is part of the symbols here. And basically it just says when you have a dark arrow, the reference pitch that you're using that you've already tuned is at the blank end of the arrow. And the end of the arrow with the pointer is the note that you're tuning on that step. So for example, we're tuning A3 first from A4 after we get A4, then we're tuning E4 and we're using A4 as our reference, and we're tuning D4 and using A4 as our reference. And then we kind of move down here vertically, and you can just look at the major tuning steps. I'm going to skip the in between, which are basically checks. You tune F4 to A4 next, and then you tune C#4 to A3 next. And now A3 becomes a reference pitch. A4 has only been used for the first few notes. Now you use A3 as a reference pitch. And at this point, you have a commonly used tool in tuning's temperaments where you have stacked thirds. And everybody who's experienced with this knows this major third beats slower than the major third in between. So A3 to C#4 beats a little bit slower than C#4 to F4, which beats a little bit slower than F4 to A4. And so at this point, you have these stacked major thirds, and you've also tuned a fourth and fifth in between the octave of the temperament. Moving on, you tune C4 from F4, which has already been tuned, and then you tune B flat or A sharp from F4. Okay, so you tune a fourth and a fifth from F4, and then you go from that C sharp that's already been tuned, and you tune a fourth and a fifth up. So from the C#4, you tune F#4, and then follow that up by tuning G#4. Okay, so by this time, if we look at this diagram here, we've tuned A4, we've tuned A3, and then we've tuned the fourth and the fifth in between, and then we got the thirds, major thirds, meaning we added the F and the C sharp, and then from the F and the C sharp, we got fourths and fifths. So up from the C sharp, we got our F sharp and G sharp, and down from the F, we got our C and our B flat. And at this point, we're kind of almost done. What we can do is we can go down from the D to tune a B. We can tune up from the D to tune a G next. And then we can tune down from the E to tune a B next. These are fourths, of course. And then we have a final note, which we bring everything together. Let me turn off well, actually, I won't turn it off. The comments, or sorry, the writing over it. The final note that we tune is going to be this D sharp. And then we tuned everything. So let me go back to the diagram here, just to show you how it looks. So again, as we said, the last three notes, we tuned the G from the D, we tuned the B from the E, and then finally we tuned the D sharp, and you can use the A sharp or B flat as your reference, but you can also check that D sharp against other notes, for example, the G sharp, and you can even check things against this is actually a little bit of an odd test, but these are augmented fourths or tritones doing a test to make sure that they sound the same. So this is the temperament sequence. Like I said, this is, for certain technicians, it can be kind of complicated and may not be used to this temperament sequence. So let's say I created a way to walk you through tuning this temperament sequence. Let me clear this. They're all drawings. Okay, great. At this point, with the application, we have gone through some of the process. This is sort of in the middle of a process. The A4 has been tuned. The notes that are slightly green have been tuned. So we tune the A4, of course. We tune the A3. And then from the A4 as a reference pitch, we tuned the E4 and we tuned the D4. And this is that sort of fifth step or like fifth major step of the sequence where we're in the process of tuning the F sharp 4 to the A4. And so let's just listen and see what that process is like. So we'll ignore the first few steps. If we want, we can go back to them. But when we hit play, we're going to hear this major third. The note that's being tuned is the one with the tuning fork symbol. The note that's a reference pitch has the anchor on it. So let's hit play. Okay, and if you have headphones on or you're listening carefully, what you're going to be listening for, again, for the novices, I'm going to create other steps in this application to know what to listen for. But if you're an experienced tuner, you're listening for a very fast beating, basically, what is it? I think it's like 2 octaves and a third above this A4, right? We're going to listen to a coincident partial. It's 2 octaves and a third above, above this F4. So it'll be not A5, but A6. You're going to be hearing a beat rate. And just for your reference, before I play it again, it's going to be quite fast. I would liken it to, like a motorcycle engine, like a right. It's kind of hard to make the sound of it because it's so fast. It's hard to pinpoint it, but it is around the rate of like a tongue roll or something like that, or like a motor running. So again, if I hit play, I'm listening to the beat rate. And this gives me a great resource to hear that beat rate and to tweak it with these buttons. I can lower the pitch a little bit of the F4. It'll slow down the beat rate. Let me do that in an extreme way. So now it's beating very fast. It's a wide interval. And of course I can raise the pitch quite a bit. So now I'm seeing a more pronounced beat rate. This is of course too slow because it's like wah, 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 wah. I can make that sound. It's not like a tongue roll. It's going to be, that's like too slow. But nevertheless, what this app allows me to do is if I'm learning about this, to hit submit tuning. And it's actually going to give me a little bit of feedback. Hey, it's going to say you are 6 cents sharp. Now, I've created multiple levels of this app, and we might actually switch levels because this is a little bit of a harder level. It's a challenge level. Because what happens after you submit, if you are incorrect, you can't just go, oh, I was 6 cents sharp. Now let me just flatten the note about 6 cents. It actually detunes the note again. So you have to start from scratch. You have to remember the beat rate. And try to get back to the beat rate just from kind of a reference point, sort of in your own internal reference. Now, I also have a level -1 training mode, which is not that. It doesn't detune you after you made an incorrect answer. It just allows you to say, okay, I was a little bit sharp. Let me flatten it. Let me submit again and see how I did. And actually, just to keep things simple, we'll change it to that mode. So let's hit play. And we hear our beat rate. It's changed a little bit fast. Let's hit submit just to see what it says. So now it's in a state where it's too flat. And here we're 3 cents flat. So we actually have the opportunity to raise the pitch. Okay, it's too flat. Okay, I could raise the pitch again. I'm still too flat. And now this is going to be the right answer. I can listen for that rate. It's a fast, kind of like a tongue roll, sort of like almost like a motor running type of a beat rate. And if I've gotten it correct, what it's going to do is it's actually just running me through this tuning sequence. So Like we've talked about, we tuned A4, we tuned A3, we tuned E4 and D4, and we tuned F4, and the next note of the sequence would be C sharp 4. Well, it's going to jump us to that step in the process. It's going to highlight that in a sequence here that we see on the left. So right now, the symbolism is going to change. We have an anchor that represents, now we're using A3 as a reference pitch, and we're using C sharp 4 as the note that we're actually having to tweak and tune. And we can listen to it, and we can tweak it, and we could submit our potential correct answer. And if we're wrong, it'll give us feedback. And if we're right, we'll go on to the next step. So here we're at an A3 to C sharp 4. Wah, 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 wah. Most tuners of tuner temperate will probably say, oh yeah, you know what, that sounds a bit slow for that particular major third. One thing you can do is run the checks. We didn't go through this, but what the app's going to allow you to do is you can also run the checks in order that are recommended. So we can compare and we could see we've already got our F4 to A4, but we know that the beat rates are supposed to progressively get faster as the major thirds move up from the A to the C sharp to the F, and the F to the A4. And so we can, before we even tune our note, we can check, is that happening? So let's try that with our checks. We're going to go from the initial third to the third above it to the third above that. And we'll see, are they speeding up in a sort of a gradual way? So there's our A to C sharp. There's our C sharp to F. And there's our F to A. And again, if you're used to listening for this, what you'll notice is it is going from slower to faster, but it's actually debatable whether these two are maybe even at the same speed, or maybe even the middle third is a little bit faster than the top third is not the way you want it to be. And again, if you're used to tuning, this is going to mean you need to raise the C sharp a little bit, get it beating a little bit faster, which will make the middle third slower and slower than the top third. And you want that progression to be kind of even, meaning the amount that it speeds up as you go from one to the next is about the same. Just quickly from reference here, I'll speed it up a little bit. And then I'm just going to submit this. We'll see, am I right? Did I get it a little bit flat or sharp from where it's supposed to be? Okay, I'm still too flat, which basically means this third on the bottom needs to be a little bit wider, and this third in the middle needs to be a little bit narrower. And again, on this level, all you have to do is take the feedback it gave you. Just raise the pitch a little bit and submit, and it's easy to get a correct answer because you've gotten the feedback and it's not, detuned again to put you in the raw state. Okay, so this is the way that we use this app. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it intuitive. I'm going to add some other features of the app that almost kind of train you the basics of tuning this temperament, as well as giving you a gamified way to sequence through it. But I'm fascinated with the concept of gamification as a learning tool, because if you can have, bite-sized chunks, people see this in a learning app like Duolingo, where people are learning languages, where you kind of learn tidbits, you get points, you get feedback, you run through a specific sequence that's optimized for learning. And not only that, there's like a point system so that you can keep track of how well you're doing, you can compete with yourself. And what's really going to be interesting about this particular application is you can actually compete with other piano tuners. If you want to think of it as being competitive, you can. If you want to just think about it as seeing where you stand in terms of your own abilities and, how quick you are and how adept you are at this. So I've created a scoring system so that you can compete with yourself, you can compete with others, and you could have a sense of getting better at this particular skill. So how does this work? Every time, well, let's just look. We have a leaderboard. And again, if you want to try this out, I can give you, you can get set up with the link and a user password. And you'll be given a username. And what's going on, you may have noticed, while I'm doing the tuning, there is a timer running. This one's been running for a while because it was left going. But basically, this is the number of, I don't know, minutes, yeah, minutes, seconds, and subseconds going on here. And so what is the goal from like a competitive aspect or from like a, you know, a rewards aspect or sort of like a gamified aspect? The goal is to finish this whole sequence as quickly as you can, right? Which would be an indicator that you're good at recognizing the right beat rates of the intervals and you know the sequence well, you know what's coming next, you know what to do, you know what to listen for, you know how to run through it. And so what happens is the faster you can finish, the higher your score. So for example, the top score here finished the whole sequence in 88.7 seconds, right? Again, that's just like a minute and a half. You could never really run through it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you could. Maybe you could run through a temperament on a piano in a minute and a half. But again, what does this offer you? It offers the ability to practice tuning a temperament, to get used to the sequence in a format that you can actually rapidly progress, rapidly get better, focus on the sequence, focus on the listening, and get rid of some of the variables. Oh, I need a piano. Oh, when I want to start again, I need it to be detuned, right? This just detunes it for you, right? From the start, you start again. And so you can rapidly iterate and learn how to tune a temperament sequence pretty quickly and have some fun while doing it. So the quicker you get it done, the higher your score. But then if you miss, you saw what happens. If I make a mistake, let's just give that example again. So now, for example, our next step, let's see here, we're tuning the C4 to the F4. If I submit that tuning, look at this incorrect submissions log down here. If I submit that tuning and it's incorrect, I get another incorrect submission logged. And if I still don't get it right, now I'm too sharp, I get another incorrect submission log. And it isn't until I finally get it right, let's see here, that I get to celebrate. I didn't get an incorrect submission, and I get to move on to the next step of the temperament sequence. Okay, so every time I get an incorrect submission, what happens is, let's see, go back to this leaderboard here. Every time I get an incorrect submission, that gets logged. And the scoring is your final score is calculated as your completion time plus, so you basically get time added as a penalty for every incorrect submission. And that's an additional 30 seconds, right? So you can see the leader in this case finished this in only 90 seconds. But even if they just had one incorrect answer, their effective time would become 2 minutes total, right? So you can see the incorrect answers can really add up and put you down on the leaderboard. So again, here's a cool gamified way to learn how to tune a temperament sequence. It's simple and usable because you don't have to sit down in front of a piano. You don't have to have a piano tuning hammer or mutes or any of these sort of tools. You don't have to detune it before you're done. You don't have to figure out how you're going to check it with some device or whatever. And you can sort of quickly move through it. You can iterate it. You can have some fun. There's a competitive aspect. And again, I've got technicians on my team over in New York who are using this. Yeah, and they just might use it to kind of quickly run through the sequence and see how good they are at tuning a temperament, understanding how the different intervals should sound, and so on and so forth. And as you can see, we did this with Mario Egrek's temperament from the Pianos Inside Out. But you could, this format, depending on how users respond to it, what they like best, we could input other temperaments in here. People want to try going through a different type of temperament sequence. Of course, you could theoretically do, historical temperaments and see what those sound like. There's a lot of possibilities. Of course, we don't want to explore too many of them before we know what's useful for people. But I think in its basic format here, if you can tune the basics by ear, you'll understand it. you can log in, you can try it out, you can get yourself on the leaderboard, you can get better at it, and you can see how you compare to others. The leaderboard goes all-time scores, who is the best in this month, who is the best in the week, who's the best who is doing it today. All right. It looks like actually our potential guest for today has joined. So I'll wrap this up. We'll have a quick chat with our guest for the day, and then we'll wrap up. But yeah, I hope you guys found this interesting. Um, and that actually is a relatively okay place for me to close out. Let me just review. And if there's any questions, you guys can put them in the chat. But again, just to recap, this is an application that I'm developing. It's meant to teach people how to tune a temperament and to get used to a specific temperament sequence from Mario Egor's Piano Inside Out book, and to gamify the process so you can have some fun doing it. You compete with yourself and compete with other folks, and yeah, and ultimately improve the abilities of the individual, but also raise the standards of the industry, right? Because again, as I said, you can use an ETD, you can do 98%, with practice, with an ETD, but you're not really going to get to that 100% unless you're incorporating your ear. And most technicians are going to look at a temperament sequence these days, the folks that are just mainly just using their ETD, and their eyes are going to glaze over and they're going to get lost. Here's a really easy way to get your ear involved, train your ear, and take things to the next level as an individual and for the industry as a whole. So I look forward to you guys' feedback. You can email me, ethan@pianotechnicsmasterclass.com. I can potentially give you access to try it out and get your input, and we'll change and evolve as things go. All right, let's do the stop the share, and let's check in with our guest for today. Hey, Maud, how you doing? You can feel free to speak up, say
Oh,
hi.
hi.
Hi, how's
Can
it
you
going?
can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes,
Oh,
I can hear you. Let me
I'm just
explain.
looking at my email and realizing it said Eastern time.
Oh, okay, got it. Yes. Yeah, I explained to the audience that you were having like a personal issue and we weren't sure whether you were gonna be able to show up today and that we would just do
It's because I'm
a
in Central time and an idiot.
okay, got it. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. So we'll do a quick intro. We'll say hi and we'll check in as long as we have a little bit of time left in the hour. And maybe we'll have you back another day if we can. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. You're able to come on camera here, so we will add a spotlight. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio, Armand. It's lovely to have you here. I'm going to do a quick intro. What I did was I just used our extra time today to walk to actually reveal kind of like a little secret project that I've been developing for piano tuners. So that's what we've been doing so far. And I explained to folks that you might jump in and we might be able to have a chance to chat. So we will move into that part of the process now. Let me just make sure I bring up your bio. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. Okay, let me do the intro and we'll get started. So today, folks, we are joined by Maud Hixson, and she's a vocalist whose work centers on uncovering meaning within lyrics, history, and content, then bringing those elements forward with clarity, warmth, and care. She's known for her intimate interpretations and thoughtful repertoire choices, and has built a body of work that revisits both beloved standards and overlooked gems, shaping performance that feel lived in rather than simply presented. Her approach reflects a deep respect for the song itself and stories it carries. So, with that, we will transition to a quick interview with you, a quick check-in, and like I said, maybe we'll check back in. But welcome to Piano Tech Radio, Armad.
Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. So I usually launch in with a little bit of a check-in on someone's background and how they get into, music in the first place.
Hmm.
Since that's kind of a tradition here, I'm going to ask you that, but you can just kind of give it, the 1 minute version. I started when I was 4 and my dad was a taskmaster, or, I started when I was 18 and just kind of progressed quickly, or what, how'd you get into music? And what brought you to like the professional level?
Yes, I realize that I have been deeply interested in music and songs in particular my whole life. And it was always a big part of what I spent my time doing. But I didn't really think of it as something I would enter as a profession. As I got to be a teenager, I thought, oh, I'm too shy. And it just did seem like a real job to me,
Hmm.
that I could do. So I just did other things. And then when I was about 30, I discovered that I really uh, couldn't let it go. And so I started sitting in with jazz musicians in the Twin Cities area of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and kind of learned on the job. And that's kind of how it's gone, ever since. And that's been more than 2 decades now that I've been a full-time musician.
Wonderful. Are you're living in New York at the moment, or where are you
No,
located?
I live in a suburb of St. Paul.
Oh, you live in suburb of St. Paul. Okay, so not far from me. I'm Chicago, so
Oh, nice. I was just
not too
there
far off.
this week.
Great.
My
Yeah,
husband and
much.
I were at Winter's Jazz Club, and
Oh,
Howard Reich interviewed us for his Spotlight series.
wonderful.
Yeah, it
Wonderful.
was really fun to be back.
Um, yeah, yeah. Rent's a lot more affordable than in New York City, that's for sure. I was thinking New York because of some of your recordings that you've shared. I know you have I've got a couple. I don't know if we want to check this one. I do have a Jazz at Lincoln Center recording that you might have shared. I don't know where the location of these other ones are. We got You're Out of Here and Cottontail. Which one do you think might be good for us to get a quick sample of your work?
If you want to show, I think Cottontail is fun because it's with a big band.
Okay.
Um, and it's kind of an example of some of the jazz
All
that I
right.
do.
All right. Let's meet your artistry. And let me pull that up here. Got the sound shared, and we'll get everything lined up. And we'll take a look and a listen. And if it makes sense, I'll play it all the way through. If not, we'll cut it after a minute or two. Let's go.
Way back in my childhood, I heard the stories are true about a funny bunny stealing some food from a garden he knew. His mama got worried. She told the bunny one day, better watch the farmer, he has cereal, he'll blow you away. He knew his mama is right, so why don't he do what she said? Maybe he just don't dig it. Why did this happen? Because he's a rabbit. Out in the garden where carrots are dense, I found a hole in the fence. Every morning when things are still, then I crawl through the hole and eat my fill. The other rabbits think I'm taking theirs. Maybe I do wrong, but who cares? I'm a hooked rabbit. Yeah, I got a carrot habit. Every day I'm trying to avoid it. What'll I do? I know that I've enjoyed it. Really true, I'm begging Mama's pardon. All the time I'm heading to the garden. Everything's free and the farmer's napping. Every little carrot is a stolen delight. And I keep forgetting that it ain't right. So one day as I was stealing a bit of a hill, that farmer with a real creep still came out with a big shotgun. And did I run? Well, I crossed it really swiftly as I could. Yeah, split from there without a second to spare. I could hear the bullets flying through the air. I could hear the words Mama told me. If Mama knew, she would scold me. It was Mama's real feeling. Never get away with all stealing. The farmer really had sense. He plugged up the holes in the fence. Had me running madly around the garden looking for a hole to crawl in. Hey, hey, you picked up what I say. Hard-headed rabbit, but if you have it, your mama told you when you hop. And if you stop, you cop the crop. If it's so bad, they got for you, report carrots, and you can pick up very good stuff. Son, they got you on the run, so you better find a quiet little corner where the farmer never comes. You got plenty of vegetables snuggle in between them. Dig around and you got a tail, it's got a big green run. You rabbit run. Now you had your fun. Run before you feel a shotgun. Run on. Run. Well now, while you're in a panic, you forget the garden gate. All you gotta do is lay around and wait. Right now, the farmer thinks he's got you. Really is itching to steal your fate. Don't you beat him by the hole in the fence. You can beat him with some natural sense. While he's over by the fence a while away. Keep on running till you're out of that gate. Now the farmer really scared you to death. You never figured he was outgunned. Better pause a while from catching your breath. You're gonna need it if you're out running. Maybe now you remember go what your mama told you. Now you know the reason if your papa scolded you. So hit the gate if you're ready to wail. And when you do, you show him in his jail. Hurry up, better change your plans. Better run from the farmer man. We must make tracks. We all got pesky hair. Head for a home run. Got to win with shoulder tail. We don't ever run when you're gone. Now you're going home to Momsy and Popsy. And your little brothers Flopsy and Mopsy. Now you're gonna do what Mama intended. Now you know your carrot stealing is ended. I heard the old story. One rabbit's foot will bring luck. But it's much more lucky luck here now to the rabbits attached.
All right. The classics.
Yeah.
You don't get a chance to hear. I really never get the chance to hear the lyrics to Cottontail. You know, like
That's the challenge about the vocalese, that you want to make sure that people can actually understand. So
Mhm,
I think it's a brilliant thing that John
mhm,
Hendricks said, okay, it's called Cottontail. I'm going to make it the story of Peter Cottontail. I
mhm.
mean, who can do that?
Very cool. And tell us about the group that you're playing with there.
That is the Wolverines Big Band. They've been around since 1974. They played Jimmy Carter's inaugural ball, and they're just a wonderful, authentic swing big band. My husband Rick Carlson is on piano there, and he wrote the arrangement for that
Cool.
piece, the Duke Ellington composition, and yeah, we had some fun.
All right. I'm curious to see the My Romance recording. Let's just take a quick listen to that. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back and check this one out for at least a little bit.
One of the songs that she sang in the movie that was so pretty is So Right, I think, truly from Maud Hixson, and it goes like this.
I won't kiss your hand, madame, crazy for you though I am. I'll never woo you on bended knee. No, madame, not me. We don't need that flowery fuss. No, sir, madame, not for us. My romance doesn't have to have a moon in the sky. My romance doesn't need a blue lagoon standing by. No month of May. No twinkling stars. No hideaway. No soft guitars.
All right. In the interest of time, we'll cut it there. But yeah, but beautiful songs. Great to hear. Some of these melodies, it's just like once you sit down as a piano player, it's just so nice. Just sit down and just play like a beautiful melody. It just plays itself, Love that.
Yeah, they're so well written that it's almost like it's a spell. It was crafted so carefully and beautifully that these ones that have stood the test of time, it's because they put a little spell on people.
hmm Well, thanks for sharing these.
Of course.
In the interest of time, we usually end at the hour. We can go sort of a little bit
Yeah.
over, but what do you feel like, we got a little bit of how you got started. We got a little bit taste of the sound of what you do. We tend to talk a little bit more, of course, on the program, but that's fine. What do you feel like is kind of like a nice essential thing to share about you, where you're at, what's important to you, where you're going, as we kind of have a few minutes left here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that there isn't as much to say about what I do. as I think it's just important, especially now when our attention is so diffused, that it's important to just take time for yourself to really listen to music, to sit down. And I'm a big believer in albums, the concept of taking the time to immerse yourself in a whole album of songs. And it's about the stories. And I think that that's why we connect so well with vocal music in particular. And so that's my goal always, is to try to get the story across, try to have presentations that do that. And so I do a lot of concerts and cabaret presentations where there's a lot of context, because the context gets stripped out of the way the music delivery systems have evolved.
Tell me about it.
So yeah, so I just feel like that's what makes me want to keep doing this, because I'll get in a room with people and we all have that nice experience together, and that's why it's worth continuing, I think. And because I still have that feeling of that's the deepest way for me to connect with music, is to really give it all my attention, and either go hear it live or to sit down with a record and
Appreciate that. Yeah. Interesting enough, that's a bit of a recurring theme here that we find, or I pull out, or our guests will pull out, just, there's things that to these days, as you say, are missed, and I often harp on, yeah, go out, listen to music, have that experience, especially it's the human experience. It's the extemporaneous experience, right? It's not recorded, that you never know exactly what's going to happen. And these are the things that people just don't even realize that they're missing until they get out and do it. Yeah.
Right.
And the same thing with, like you said, like listening to a record, even an old record or even a new record, and just going, oh, let me sit down and have an experience that lasts for longer than 30 seconds. An
Exactly. And
integrated
you're not doing
experience.
something else,
Yeah.
I just have these memories of growing up and putting on a record and laying on my bed and listening to the whole side, doing nothing else.
Yeah.
So it just your imagination gets involved, and so that's kind of how I've approached what I choose to do. I want these things that are more pure experiences, rather than trying to, permeate different areas on the internet or things like that.
Totally. Well, totally in line with you there. Well, thanks for coming in for a kind of a short and sweet.
I'm so
but yeah,
sorry. I didn't understand about the the Eastern time zone. Oh my God.
it's fine. I think actually, yeah, it actually turned out to an interesting audible that we made today. So that's fine.
Good.
You and I'll do a quick wrap up. I'll sort of do our outro. We'll log off the call. We'll say goodbye. I'll see everybody next week. And then if you just jump back on the Zoom, we'll do a quick wrap up about,
Okay.
just you and me.
Okay.
But yeah.
I appreciate you asking me.
Absolutely. Well, again, just our outro here. We have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour, and want to thank Maud Hixson for jumping in with us today. As always, for our live audience as well. We see you out there. To Rip, thanks for joining us, and everyone else that joined today. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. This is cutting edge instruction, as you even saw today, in its development mode, from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for the session individually, you know what? Make your life more convenient. You can sign up by subscribing to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month. Hey, you get the direct access to today's session, as well as our member area recordings, automatic registration for each week's news session. Sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. Don't forget about the audio only podcast version of the program, the Substack with advanced information for piano techs you can't find anywhere else. Our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and sign up for the email list at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. Just your name and email. All right. Thanks everyone for jumping in today. It's been lovely to have you. Thanks again, Maud. We'll see you back on the Zoom link.